Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Behind the Groove podcast. I am DJ Keo.
And I am Basil Barrington. And today we are going to talk about, it's not really going to be a review. We're just going to talk about this new series on Apple TV Foundation. I was looking forward to this. I was like, wow, could
Yes.
this be the next Expanse or even better? Because it is basically the foundation of all of this sort of sci-fi stuff we've been watching. Star Wars, Star Trek, it was all based on these on this book, a 9 series
Yeah.
book called Foundations. And it was and this is what we have. This is where we are.
Yeah.
What do you think about Foundations, man?
I I like the concept of the book. Like I'm not gonna pretend like, oh, I've read all this stuff before. Like I've read Dune and
Mhm.
like I was deep into Dune's lore or whatever. But Foundation predates that. I think it was made in like the 60s or something like that. So
Yeah,
it's a really old book. And Foundation is basically the blueprint for all modern sci-fi,
everything.
for everything. Anything remotely related to space and technology is based off of this one book. So like this is groundbreaking to say the least that Apple decided to make this thing, because this is not a minor project. this
No,
this is this thing is expansive in the world, and I think a lot of people they care a lot about this book because it's such a important literature for, like, just sci-fi. Just how we look at computers and technology today is because of it put things in people's minds way back when. And even going to the space shuttle and this kind of stuff, like everybody's thinking about these things, about how space would work, what you can do out in space. And a lot of these concepts came from Isaac Asimov. Like, this is a huge deal.
this is it.
So
You think the Expanse came from Foundations as well?
yeah, like, just the how you travel in space. Like, he set the ideas forward about what space travel would be like.
Hmm.
What's it like to explore other planets, and like all these things. Like, people thought about it, but like I think he's the first one to really put it into text like this, and actually, you know, develop it to the point where you have an understanding about what it could be, even if you don't know anything about this stuff. So
Yeah,
it's really cool. I'm a huge fan of anything space related.
true.
I I watch anything space related, movies,
All
TV
day.
shows,
Hmm.
documentaries, anything related to space. I love. And this, I found this thing really, really interesting, especially about the concepts about what it would be like if there was other planets around, Earth or whatever. Because what's the main planet? With Trentor or something like that? That's
Trentor,
the
right? And
that's
I
the
think he
central
said there were
planet.
like 4 or 5 trillion people in the galactic empire. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, and then there's millions of planets around them. So like, if you think about our solar system, there's only a few areas that's got like the perfect placement to the sun that you could actually get to,
Hmm.
and Earth is one of them. Mars is another one, that people could actually be on it and probably be sustainable to live.
Hmm.
So you have to think about how far people would have to travel in space in order to find other planets that are inhabitable for human beings. Like, it's got to be really far, like that, what the travel would be. Like, we're talking
Exactly.
about light years, hundreds of light years. So, and they have millions of planets is insane when you think about it.
It
So
is
how
insane.
how expansive would an empire have to be to get to this many planets and have this many people colonizing and running and whatever, because they have like different sectors or whatever. This book's complicated, right?
It's
The
that
show's
like
complicated.
I was about to say, like so Apple, what they did was they released the first 2 episodes of Foundation, which I was super excited about. Um, and I ended up watching those 2 episodes 3 times
Yeah, I watched it a couple
because
times.
I watched it once without subtitles. Then I watched
Mm.
it a second time with subtitles. Then I watched it a third time without subtitles and was able to fully
That
wrap
kind
my
of
head
got.
around what's going on. It's not a
Mm.
complicated film, but it's just something that you really have to pay super attention to. Um,
Yeah, the
you know,
actual story is kind of straightforward. Like this guy, he's come up with a formula. It was
mhm.
what's it called? Psycho
Psycho history.
Psychohistory.
Right.
And
Harry Seldon. He's a
so yeah, and
mathematician. He's a professor.
so he's come up with a concept, and he believes that the empire is about to fall
Right.
within the next, hundreds or maybe 1,000 years from now. Empire is going to
Centuries.
fall.
Few
Yeah,
centuries. Yeah.
at least the next 100 years,
Yeah.
couple 100 years, 500
Exactly.
maybe. They don't know for sure, but
hmm
he's like, based on these trends and based on the stuff that's going on right now, it looks like the empire is going to fall, and we're going to have
Right.
problems. So he's decided that what we need to do is create a foundation and
Yes.
save history
hmm
so that when we don't go back to the dark ages and we're beating people with clubs again, like we can still
Right.
have how to build a spaceship and how to do this. This planet has food. This planet has energy. Whatever. Like maintain this kind of stuff, because this is what happens if a civilization is kind of destroyed and people have to go back to huts again.
Yeah.
A lot of history is lost. Like if you think
hmm
about, I was watching this documentary and they're talking about space travel, and all of the scientists that initially worked on going to the moon have all died, and all of the information they've had has been lost. And we think about it today where we have technology, we got laptops. I have my cell phone. Like, my dad used to work in a computer lab, and my cell phone is more powerful than the computers in the computer lab 100 times over, and it's in my pocket. So you're thinking,
right.
like, as far as technology's gone in this short
Right.
amount of time,
hmm
all of this information is lost about how to get to the moon, and people are basically reinventing the wheel. So imagine if you had an empire with millions of planets, and now you don't know how to get to this planet anymore, or this one's destroyed, or whatever. Like, history is a huge deal. So I think that, like, the concept of retaining history at the end of a civilization is really fascinating to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's a brilliant concept for a
It's
book
a
when you think
yeah.
about
And Apple, who has like googobs of like money, they scooped it up and they were
it.
like, dude, here's like money. Here's bags. Again, I think the first two episodes were something I
It's
think they
world
made it.
building.
Yeah, exactly. So you had to wrap your head around it. Let me ask you this here. So here you have Harry Seldom. He created this equation. He's a math whiz. He created this equation and figured out that the genetic empire, which is like
Oh, the
dawn,
emperor.
day, and dusk. Yes, all of those
Yeah,
guys. The
that's
root,
another cool concept for the having the three of you rule the thing.
you know, the genetic dynasty of Cleon. So that was very interesting. But he created this equation. Super duper egghead math whiz. Why did he? Why did he want Gail from Synax to? Why was he interested in her? Was he interested in her so that she can prove his like mathematical theory or disprove his mathematical theory?
Now that I don't know, like, based, because I haven't read the book. People say it deviates a little bit from
Mhm.
what was being said in the book, but
Yeah.
I think that he was looking for somebody who was smart on his level
hmm
to kind of maintain this thing and keep this thing going, like
Yeah.
that foundation thing going. So, like, he basically, she said that she won a contest
Yeah.
for solving this
hmm
equation, and that's how she got into meet held uh, Harry in the first place. It's because
Right.
she won the contest.
hmm
So I think that he was looking for like-minded, smart people in the universe. And I don't know, like, if he had like a 18-step master plan to kind of use her to go get this thing going, because he did say that it wasn't necessarily for her to be there the way that she was. Like, his
hmm
goal was for them to be exiled on that other planet. That was his goal the whole time,
Right.
and he's hopeful that it worked out like that, but he wasn't
Mhm.
sure because basically his theory isn't so much. It's like predicting the future, but for a large mass population.
Right.
Instead of, you can't predict the future for one person, but like it's mass population, you can kind of guess how things are going to move, and that kind of makes sense because if you could see, say like if somebody had a bad crop, you can kind of tell, well, there's going to be some famine here, and they're going to have to get water here, or they're going to have to go get something here. And you can kind of tell, people are going to move around or whatever based on little tiny things. And on a larger scale, I think it makes sense. The concept about it makes kind of sense. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Now, there was something in this in the foundation, the first episode, where
Mhm.
the Star Bridge was destroyed by, suicide bombers, right? That Star Bridge explosion, man, was that like off the chain or what?
Yeah, visually that's incredible. It kind of reminds me of Coruscant in Star Wars because that's
Hmm.
supposed to be like the center of the
Right.
galaxy,
Hmm.
and it's another planet that just has its buildings and it's all concrete or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
what I'm saying? It's just people. It's a planet of people. There's no greenery or anything like that. It's the same concept. So you could kind of see where sci-fi people got their inspiration from, and it's kind of cool. The space bridge thing, that is another cool concept because a lot of people are trying to figure out how you could do space travel, because the biggest problem with space travel is you got to go into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and that requires a lot of power. But
Hmm.
if you could keep all your energy and just travel around space, it's a lot easier to do.
Right.
So if you had a bridge, you just get up to space.
Right.
i
That's
i wonder, let me ask you this:
what's up.
why do you think that the security was so lax on something that's so important to the planet? Because they said it was like 100 million people died because the space bridge thing.
When you look at a structure like that again, and there was a structure, a Star Bridge structure like that in a lot of different shows, like again,
Yeah,
Krypton,
they
some
they
other
have it in
shows,
Halo, the
right.
video game Halo.
Yeah,
There's a star bridge like
exactly. So, it's just like that is super vital. The security people, they were looking at them sort of strange, remember?
yeah. They
You
go,
know,
I looked at it, if I was working security, I look at that like, nah, you can't come through, not
yeah.
today.
Hmm.
Like you look shady. Like there's something off. I don't know. I guess they for film effect they got to make them look extra sketchy, so that that's the person you got to watch. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because, again, you would think that something so vital
Mhm.
that you would have super security, you would be able to, detect things. Like an example is the two suicide bombers had these bombs that were like in their wrist, that was like
Yeah,
kind of dope, wasn't it? Right. And it's
yeah.
just like, wow, okay, this is like, this isn't like, you putting a bomb vest on and then,
Mhm.
controlling it with a phone. This is just like boop,
Yeah,
you
I think it's
explode it.
designed like that to get through security. But
Right.
yeah, it
Um,
seems like something that you kind of need to beef up. 'Cause
yeah.
it's the capital city. Like you're not going to some remote place on the outskirts somewhere. It's the
Yeah.
most important place in the universe.
Heads will roll. Some security heads will roll for that
Oh,
because that.
absolutely.
How do you build that back? I mean, I know you can, but I mean that must have taken like hundreds of years just to
Yeah,
build
it's
up.
you gotta think
Very
about high.
interesting.
If it took hours to get down, it has to have been really high, like way past the atmosphere level. Because I don't think that, because it went for miles when it fell down.
Oh,
It destroyed
it,
miles of land,
not only miles of land,
but
but
down
also
too.
multiple levels too.
Yeah,
So that thing was super heavy.
yeah,
It was super heavy and it was super long. And yeah, that was a blockbuster scene when that thing exploded and it just like broke off and it was like
yeah.
waving in the air and then it just like came down. It was just like wow. So the first two episodes, it was really based on one explaining or trying to find out why Dr. Seldon and Gail, I mean, which was just really someone who was just, she was just like a lamb, really. Um,
Mhm.
just like, okay, we don't really we don't really think that your theory is true, and trying to,
Mhm.
just bring down him and his followers, but then realizing that, and I think they sort of, you know, felt the Gail was being honest. She's young, she's not as like, into it like, Seldon. So, the emperor has sort of like believed her a little bit, which is why they were
Yeah.
shipped off to Terminus, right?
Yeah.
So,
You know what's interesting too? When a empire becomes that powerful, they get more paranoid than normally. Because you think about,
yeah.
if somebody is like in the United States, hey, you guys are gonna have trouble in a couple of years,
Mhm.
everybody like, that's fine,
If you
whatever.
look
But
at
like,
any powerful empire in time,
yeah,
they
yeah.
fell, because they became completely paranoid.
Yeah, but like, to have somebody say that you're gonna fall in the next 100 years, probably past your lifetime, a lot of people would shrug their shoulders, but they looked at it as heresy. Like, how dare you say that
Right.
to disparage the empire? That's why I think, like, as any empire, the more powerful it gets, the more paranoid they get, and
Mhm.
having to try and keep things in line. Like, it's a fragile balance between, all the plants or whatever they're dealing with. So I found that fascinating that they would care that much, that somebody was like, yeah, maybe 1,000 years, you guys are gonna have some trouble. I don't know.
But the
Like,
other thing is like, if it's 1,000 years, and that's the other thing, like, that just sort of, I don't know. I was
let
just
me
kind of shrugged my shoulders. I was like,
the
okay.
way the time
Mhm.
works with them, because the emperor, they're clones, so like they've been ruling for what, 3,000 years,
They
whatever.
are
So
clones, you know.
time is kind of different if
Mhm.
these guys can just keep duplicating themselves and keep going with whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like Dune has the same thing. Dune is what, 10,000 years in the future, something like that. And I
Wow.
think it's a
Mhm.
similar type thing here. Like, it's way out in the future,
Mhm.
and we look at time today, like a year from now is a big deal, and these guys with the empire is like 1,000 years from now is a big deal.
Yeah.
So for Selden's theory is that 30,000 years, if the empire is going to fail, and there's going to be 30,000 years of darkness, if, like, just back to Stone Age,
Yeah.
unless they do the foundation thing. And if they do the foundation, they can trim the 30,000 down to
Right.
1,000 years.
Right. Mhm.
And 1,000 years of Stone Age is insane to me.
Right. I can like, but I'll tell you this: I can
Mm,
deal with 1,000 years of Stone Age.
mm.
No, I'm just kidding. But it's just like, okay, do you want 30,000 years of the Stone Age, or a
Yeah,
thousand years? Like, let me see. I think I'm gonna go with the 30 instead. And the other
yeah,
thing is
like,
this, right? If your world or whatever is gonna be destroyed in 1,000 years, I mean, it's
mm.
like, okay, well, I'm gonna live for another like 40 years. So do I even care? You know,
Yeah. How long?
um,
I was kind of curious about that. Like, how long does emperors live for?
dude, they're
Because
like genetic clones.
yeah, no, they're clones, but
Huh?
like, I'm saying, like, the actual clone. How long is that cycle for that clone to be in power? Like, is it like the regular humans? Like, are they genetically modified so they live longer, or they got a
I,
regular 60 years like everybody else?
Okay, I think we're gonna figure that out because remember when Dusk was in his, studio, I guess it was, and there was an older Dusk in this sort of glass box. That you see that?
Yeah, you can
I
see he's starting to fail.
Right. I think that over time with these episodes, we're gonna find out um, how dawn, day, and dusk are replaced genetically, cloned.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna find that out.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a fascinating way to rule, because
true.
you can guarantee that, okay, first, you're keeping it in the family kind of thing, where you're basically, you're running things still,
Mhm.
but you get the added benefit of, I have the previous ruler here and he's on my team.
Yeah.
He's not like I'm replacing some random guy that I didn't
Right.
really like or
Hmm.
get a campaign against. This guy's me. He went through everything I'm going through, and he
Right.
knows exactly what
Exactly.
it's I'm dealing with,
Hmm.
and he's gonna give me good, solid information based on what he went through. And in the next version, I'm gonna make sure that guy's on point too. So then when
Hmm.
he his turn, he knows exactly what he's going through, because you can see, like, was it Dawn? He's walking around with the robot lady. I forgot her name.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's walking around with her, and she's teaching him the basics about what it's going to be like when you're emperor or whatever.
Right.
And like that concept is kind of brilliant, but kind of, I guess, dangerous because if you have somebody like that who's been making a wrong choice or steering you into the wrong thing, there's no way to force correct it because you're going to get the exact same thing down the line through the next person in charge.
Yeah.
Because basically, whatever mistake you're making, you're just going to compound it because it's you again. So, like,
Mhm.
yeah,
But
I don't know how to explain it.
Don was he was also asking, like, because after the Starbridge
Mhm.
explosion, you know, Day, the emperor, basically killed you know,
Yeah, the two
these
planets. He
these two
destroyed the two
planets,
planets.
and also just assassinated, like hung these people. Um and so Don was like, why do we have to kill people like this? Right?
Mhm.
Or does this happen all the time? Why? So he was
Mhm.
curious. He was just like, well, isn't there a different way we can do this? So I was like, oh, okay, so this may be a little interesting here. So again, we are
Mhm.
talking about everything being built up. This is only two episodes. I'm looking forward to the next episode. It's going to be really cool. Let me ask you
Mhm.
this here, right? The Emperor basically tell Seldon that he's going to send him to Terminus so he can build this foundation. So they put him on this ship, right? And what this is what I want to know, right?
Mhm.
Um, are all of Seldon's followers on that ship, or are there still some that were left on a planet?
Because that's not going to be the only foundation. There's other people going to be doing the same thing
Okay.
around the universe as
Uh
well.
huh.
But he got banished in a way that he can't do faster than light travel. He's got to sit in the plane or the spaceship like regular, and to take
800 they said, dude, we're gonna exile you, and you can't get to Terminus. You can't use jump drive, or
yeah, whatever their space
right,
travel
uh-huh,
thing is. You got to take the long way.
it's gonna take
This is a big FU.
878 days to get there. Like, wow, really?
Yeah. See,
That's
the other thing that
insane.
too that reminded me when you're talking about the Emperor with Dawn, and
Mhm.
he's asking about like do you have to do this kind of thing? That reminds me of Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. I don't know if have you seen Game of Thrones? Have you watched it?
I have not watched
Hmm.
the entire all the episodes. I think I've all the seasons. I think I've watched maybe 4 or 5 episodes. So
Okay.
no, I have
Well,
not watched it completely.
what I was gonna say is it's relevant to the first show because the very
Uh-huh.
first show, Ned Stark has to kill a deserter,
Hmm.
and he's doing it himself, and it kind of reminded me with the Emperor of when you have a like an empire on that level, that one deserter is the same equivalent to almost half the planet then, as far as people wise, like the ratio of people. So like him destroying a planet is nothing to him.
Nothing
Like that
at
that's like
all.
we're talking about, there's trillions of people there, and I don't know how many people, maybe a billion, 2 billion people on the planet. If it was that populated, maybe less. So
Hmm.
like him destroying a planet like that is just the same thing as equivalent of Ned Stark just killing one deserter. And
Yeah.
like like a ratio of how vast the empire is and how they dole out justice. Like it's that you think about it, like it was a drop in the bucket to them. Like I don't even think he's gonna remember that he did it the next day. Like
No.
it's just like a whatever. Like this is the thing, we got to do it.
Do you think the
It's
technology has caught up to like what they're speaking about in Foundation, or is it a little laggy?
well,
Obviously, they had a space bridge, which is pretty high tech.
yeah.
You
Well, I
know.
mean, like just the spaceships in general, just being able to do that
Yeah.
and go that far in space that quickly,
Hmm.
like that's beyond future tech. I think that I like what Star Wars did with the technology because they have future technology, but they're still in huts,
Right.
if you will.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's the melding of both.
Right.
You look at Expanse. Expanse is basically all future technology because
Hmm.
they're all living in space. But even on Earth, they still had basic regular stuff. Um, I think the technology, the way they did it, is kind of like a balance of it's future, but not that far in the future where it looks insane. Um,
Mhm.
like they're still using like computer terminal type things where I the when they went to that lab when they found out who had created the bomb for them,
That was sick,
like the
wasn't
girl is
it?
still doing the touch thing like a regular
Right.
computer.
Hmm.
So like it wasn't but Harry's thing is the hologram and like his stuff is floating in space and he's doing like a
Yeah.
stylus or whatever. That's still kind of ancient kind of technology, I guess, for if you're 10,000 years in the future. But I
Hmm.
think that there's a certain point in time where you get diminishing results for technology.
Yeah.
So I think that people probably like maybe they went back to the retro iPhone 1000 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just you get to a point where
400G. You know?
just like, you get to a point where like technology doesn't need to go any further. Like it's fine
Right.
where it is, and
Hmm.
it just kind of stays there going
True.
forward because this is all you need. So that's what it seems like for me, like where the show is for technology, but like it's not too far out there because I
Hmm.
think they also still make it relatable for the people who are watching.
Yeah.
So if you see some lady doing holograms, like, oh, wait, that's supposed to be a computer. Okay, I got that. Oh, this is the pod that you sleep in when you're flying in space. Okay, that makes sense to me. They got to do it in a way that everything's still relatable. I don't think that I've ever seen a show that had like technology for the future that was like, oh my god, what is this thing? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like it's never
No.
been that far out. It's still kind of basic.
Yeah.
What do you think about the technology on this show? Like, is there anything that was blowing your mind? Like, I wish we had that.
Um, no. Again, I think the space bridge was pretty dope. Um,
Yeah,
that was just pretty dope. It's almost like just a place where people, if you're trying to get to one planet, this is how you get to it.
it's an
So
elevator.
yeah, it's
It's a
exactly
space elevator.
it's a space elevator, exactly.
I think that's what they call it in Halo. I can't remember.
Yeah, the when the guys, the security people, their guns aren't high tech, like nothing I haven't
It's just
seen
regular
before.
phaser. Yeah, regular
Exactly,
laser.
just regular phaser stuff. As a matter of fact, the security people, their uniforms are sort of. I mean, you would think that these would be super duper, you know,
Yeah, we're
security
thousands
people,
of
but
years in the future.
these uniforms look really basic.
Mhm.
And I don't see any super high tech. I like what they're doing with the math equations. That the tech
Mhm.
surrounding that is pretty cool.
Yeah, because
Um,
they're not doing a 1+1 on a piece of paper anymore. It's
right,
all
exactly.
holograms in the air.
Right. So I see
Yeah.
that sort of tech. I also like the coolness of how they were like painting and everything. That looks sort
Mhm.
of cool, right?
Oh,
But
yeah, the
nothing,
mural that moves
right?
around.
Yeah,
Let
nothing
me
thus far.
let me ask you this.
What's up?
All of these sci-fi movies and TV shows, like Dune is the same way.
Mhm.
There's no Earth. Earth is always destroyed in all of these shows
Done,
and have always moved on to a different place. Even
done.
Expanse, Earth is kind of jacked up right now in
Yeah.
Expanse or in the final season. So
Mhm.
like, you know, do you think future wise, like, are we gonna
Mhm.
get to a point where everybody has to get off of Earth? Because like I think in
Yes.
Foundation, Earth is completely destroyed. Like there's no
Mhm.
more Earth. And Dune is the same way. Like Dune, Earth is like a lost planet. They don't even know where it is anymore. Like that's
Yes.
how far out they are. So
I
yeah,
think so. Yes, I
expanse
think
is
so.
yeah.
Yes, because I mean, even as we live today, the
Mhm.
scientists are basically telling us like we are destroying our own planet, right? To be so arrogant to think that we are the only planet that's inhabited by humans or just living beings, is just sort of ridiculous, right? There are
Mhm.
other planets out there, and they probably have some sort of a life, right?
Yeah, I thought about
On
that
that
too.
planet, and they
Yeah.
probably also have they may be highly more technical than us, right?
Mhm.
In
Yeah.
terms of technology, science, the environment, everything, so I mean, we won't be around,
Yeah.
but right, we won't be around, but yeah, I mean, if you look at every single, when I look at Star Wars, the only time I see Earth is like when I'm looking at Star Trek, and it's just like, hey, they're going back to Earth,
Yeah, I think
after like,
Star Trek is the only
right,
sci-fi thing like that. Earth is still exists and it's
yeah,
fine.
exactly,
Every other thing that I think of, Earth is jacked up or like
Earth is
there's
done,
nobody really there.
completely
Yeah,
destroyed, or it's
even
just like very small population now lives on Earth.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
but I mean,
Elysium. They have like a space station above Earth. Like
yeah,
even yeah,
but
yeah, like
if you look at a lot of the shows and movies we've been looking at,
mhm.
Earth is destroyed in a lot of these movies we look at.
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
asteroids and like Alien.
Yeah,
It's just like,
it's something.
right, everyone from space is just like, we need to destroy a planet that is dumb as anything. Which one is it going to be? This one right here. Let's do it. So
Yeah,
I mean, we're like fighting ourselves. So it's just like we'll probably end up destroying ourselves anyway. So
I think that though
yeah.
space travel would probably be the thing that unites the world to be together on a thing. That would
Hmm.
probably, if you're going to other planets. Now, obviously, there's gonna be trouble to get to the other planet, but like if you're gonna go to
Right.
other planets, I think that's the unifier where everyone's like, okay, we can work together to do this.
Yeah.
But
We
I mean,
will.
that's further in the future. That's not a right now thing.
Mhm. You know what? Let's wrap this up with Foundation. I can't even. I'm not even going to rate Foundations because it's so new. We've only
Mm.
watched two episodes. I really like these two episodes. I'm not going to say they're complicated, but you really have to like
There's a
not have
lot
any
going
other
on.
distractions.
Like the basic
Um,
concept, I think, is straightforward, but like, there's a lot going on. I
there's a lot
love the
going
world
on.
building.
Yeah,
I love how the Empire, like, I'm not pro Empire. I'm just saying I like how the Empire
yeah.
is
Hmm.
created, like how it works, and I'm fascinated by this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
like how they
Yeah,
how they where they get their food from, how they do
yeah.
this, like how
I'm
they do the space
fascinated with
travel,
this.
like
Yeah,
all
for
this
real.
stuff. I love watching these kind of shows with this kind of technology and this kind of thing in there. So like, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. I would like to see, because from what I'm hearing is that it's a mixture of the books, and they're going to jump back and forth
Yeah.
between future and past because that's what they've
Hmm.
been doing. It just wasn't clear to us because we don't know too much about the story, but to people who have seen it or have read the book, they're basically jumping back and forth in time in a variation of stuff that they're the way they're telling the story. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see how this works and how time works because this is a story over thousands of years in the making. So, who's going to be alive for the other half of the series or
Right. Hmm.
how is that going to work? So everything's fascinating to me. I'm really interested in this.
Apple TV better like, hit this like dead on the head because you could tell they are spending a bag of money and they've already
Oh,
renewed,
they
multiple seasons. So, they got to get this right for real. But
they
again,
backed the biggest truck.
yeah, for real. I mean, again, we're not going to rate this yet because we are still just getting into it, but we are talking about Foundation, which is a brand new series on Apple TV Plus. It is extremely fascinating to me.
Yes.
I've been looking
Yes.
forward to this because I kind of felt that after just doing some due diligence and like checking out what this is all about, that this is the foundation for every sort of sci-fi we've watched. We've
Mhm.
already said that The Expanse is one of our favorite sci-fi
Yeah.
shows. Um, so again, I mean, if I can find something that rivals The Expanse, I'm all in.
Yeah. Yeah, like Battlestar Galactica, like all these kind of shows with space travel. I'm on. Yes, sign me up.
Yeah,
Put
all
it
day.
directly in my veins. Let's go. Like
So are you
that's where
looking
I'm
forward
at.
to the next episode?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what the foundation is going to look like because for the book it kind of explained what it is, but
Hmm.
now you have to visualize it in a way to make it interesting for the viewers.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see like how they wrap up history, what they decide because like Gail made a point about, should we use this kind of math because these guys use this kind of number and these other people use this other thing. So
Hmm.
like, if you were trying to preserve history, what exactly do you decide to take? Like, do you say for World War II, like, are you going to keep all of that information about what happened in World War II, or some stuff you're going to take out? Because
Right.
like today, right now, if you look at it, people are erasing history all over the place. They're getting rid of statues. They're throwing away books that are offensive at a certain amount of
Critical race
time.
theory, all that sort of stuff.
Like basically we're kind of getting rid of the history we don't like and enforcing the history we do like. And so like if you had an agency that was designed to preserve all history on Earth,
Hmm.
you know, what exactly do you take?
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's a compelling story. At least for me, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people they want special effects and action and car chases and stuff like that. But like, what this is, it's a compelling story for me about like what do you take, what do you value, and what would you like your story to tell 1,000 years from now, 3,000 years from now?
Yeah.
Because we look at Earth and this kind of stuff, and we save stuff on Instagram for a day, and we're like, this is history for us. Like, what do you look at history that's long term? So I'm fascinated by this whole series, and I kind of see where it goes, especially because I haven't read the book. I have no idea. Everything's a
Yeah.
surprise for me, and
Exactly.
it's deviating greatly from the books. So I think they're going to try and tell it in a different way, which it could anger some people. There's purists out there that hate when they change this stuff, and some people don't care. I haven't
Yeah.
read it. I don't know.
I concur. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the foundation, and who knows? I mean, maybe during or even after, I may decide to pick up
Mhm.
the series and start reading it
Yeah,
myself.
I'm
So
I'm definitely gonna try and pick up the book when I get some downtime where I can relax and breathe again.
take a exactly, man. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I am DJ Keo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, peace.
All right.